session is going to be another quite a slight change to to what we've advertised. So the session is quality in omnichannel, the key considerations when delivering traffic across different channels. And sadly, Tim Ward, I think, is poorly today, so he can't be here. But the good news is that Ellie Katz can, so I'm going to reintroduce Dario back onto stage, and I think Dario is going to have a chat with Ellie. So over to you, Dario, and welcome, Ellie.
So later than advised, a different speaker, but the good thing about quality is also being able to jump up the hoops and manage the changes. I was super buzzed by the amount of conversations and chat that we had during the break before. I really like it. I like seeing people. And I still like the interaction with people from home, don't worry. But I've seen you before. I had the pleasure of a month ago to see you, so we're more relaxed. We can sit back and reflect the last few years of what's happening in the industry. Eli, CEO of XConnect, now part of Somos Group, and numbering information services. Now we have some of our guests here not coming from the traditional ATP model. You don't answer the phone and tell where the closest pizza place is, or things like that, I suspect. What's a number information services? What do you do?
First of all, great to be here, and Dario, thanks to Dario and the MEF team for enabling basically what's the first face-to-face industry conference in almost 2 years. So it's a fantastic achievement, and welcome to everybody here in the audience as well as everybody at home watching. I should just point out that I think it's great that you've selected the British Medical Association as the location. Given the fact that everybody's walking up and down 6 flights of steps between food and speaking, therefore if we ever need any heart resuscitation or defibrillation, there's some doctor in the house, I hope. And as slightly, in general, as kind of middle-aged, slightly overweight people, that might be a bit of a challenge going up and down, so I am very pleased that we are here and we have doctors available on help if necessary. Anyway, to answer your question, so I think the first statement to say is that what we don't do. We do not provide SMS routing, we do not provide RCS routing, we do not provide voice transmission, voice interconnect. In that case, the obvious question is, why are we here? And the answer to that is that what we do provide is we provide trusted information for global connections. And what that means in practice is that if you notice throughout this morning's presentations, and no doubt what you will hear over the next few days, is omnichannel is all about communicating with your customers. And if you look at those top few methodologies with which that happens today, whether that is voice, whether that is SMS, whether that is RCS, whether that is WhatsApp, all of those have one common factor behind them, which is what is the identity of the person or the entity that you're speaking with. And the answer to that is the phone number. The phone number ultimately is that method, is that unique, ubiquitous index that is the identity of the entity that you're communicating with. In that case, then there's a clear role for providing as much information as possible in a trusted manner about that phone number. Because ultimately that phone number is what drives and enables the communication between you, the enterprise, you, the aggregator, and the end user. And the sort of information that we provide around that, which helps kind of keeps the wheel and the cogs going and the wheels rolling behind the scenes, is information such as global number portability. How can you ensure that your message is being delivered to the correct operator, delivering that quality, delivering that kind of speed and latency impact? So that is an essential information about that phone number that actually helps drive the underlying capability of delivering a message to the right place, delivering a voice call to the right place, delivering RCS to the right place. So it's all about providing trusted information to enable your routing, identity, validation, fraud management, and keep the engine running behind this incredible industry.
And today we're talking about omni-channel. So first questions, I understand that some of that is specifically, the real machinery to make all of the A2P working. What changes though with omni-channel when you have different type of communication across?
So that is a very good question. And if you look at the requirements across, let's just focus on kind of two aspects of the omni-channel. Very much a key methodology today of how delivering the message. So number one, you look at voice, and number two, just look at straightforward messaging. And obviously, if you recognize all the major mergers and acquisitions activity over the past even few weeks, never mind past few years, is all about kind of the merging between the voice industry and the messaging industry. So across those two industries, there are slightly different sets of requirements for why number information services is essential to deliver the efficiency. So if we take an example on the messaging side, as we mentioned before, number portability query, the ability to be able to identify who the correct operator is essential to be able to ensure that that message can actually be delivered and delivered on time. And especially if you're in kind of the one-time password, you need to have that all working immensely fast and immensely smoothly. On the voice side, you have a similar set of requirements, but with slightly different drivers. In order to ensure I can deliver that voice call in the highest quality possible and at the lowest cost, I want to be delivering that voice call directly to the operator that is handling and that's terminating that call to their subscriber. But the drivers there are either because I want to ensure the lowest economic cost of routing that call, or, interestingly enough, from a quality perspective, if I want to have end-to-end high definition, I want to have end-to-end video capability, then I need to be able to route that call in the most direct manner to that terminating operator. So those kind of situations are essential, both in the voice world and in the messaging world, and especially when you're bringing them together. What's interesting is that we see as more and more operators are building or buying or developing messaging services, they're kind of recognizing that there's requirements on both sides, both on the voice side and the messaging side, for this type of information to be consumed in an economic way and in a quality way, ultimately for delivering all of that to the end users.
Talk about end user, let's talk about your users. So you mentioned some of them, but can you describe what kind of companies end up knocking on your door, coming and asking for these services?
So on a simple basis, the majority of this hall, in terms of the A2P aggregators, the A2P operators themselves, the majority of them will be our customers today, and we're supplying today billions of queries per month in order to be able to deliver this essential information for the routing on that messaging side. The other groups that we're seeing is the voice operators, whether that is global carriers, whether that is mobile network operators, who are likewise consuming information both about number portability and about number prefix to help in the validation and routing of that on the voice side. And again, what we see happening in the industry, and that's really vital, is that these two worlds are absolutely colliding. Again, the amount of mergers and acquisitions, the amount of partnerships and build and buys to be able to bring these two worlds together to deliver ultimately the omni-channel is for us a kind of classic customer where you bring both sides of that equation together.
Both sides of the equation. I need to ask you a bit. You say most of your customers are here, and I'm sure you want to keep good relationship with all of them, and I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen. Which of your customers are the best customers?
Oh, that's a very telling question.
And I didn't tell you this question before.
I'm now going to pick out individuals in the audience.
Please,
is that allowed? Is that allowed?
Can you rank them 1 to 10 as well?
If you could stand up, please. Yeah, again, when you're ultimately trying to deliver trusted information for global communications, then you want to work with operators who have kind of a global vision, and B, a vision that is omni-channel, that is multimodal, and therefore those in the audience and those at home who have that capability of bringing the rich messaging, bringing the SMS side, bringing that voice side, all under kind of one umbrella, that for us is an ideal customer, because their requirements will be scanning right across the network information side, which operators it, what capabilities around that phone number, is it RCS enabled, is it not RCS enabled, is it high definition enabled, is it not, is it validated, is it worth making that call in the first place, is it worth sending off that message in the first place. So for us, the ideal customer is in a way where this industry is moving towards, which is bringing all those models of communication under one roof and ensuring we can deliver what the enterprise wants and what the end users benefit from.
Good. You seem to love them all still. Good. And that's still working. So going back to the numbers and to the values of the numbers and so on. So the same requirement, the same information might be used in different ways.
Yeah, we'll give you just kind of few to kind of bring home that example. So we're seeing an increasing amount, especially in the kind of the business messaging environment, in the A2P environment, of what additional services can I as an aggregator, can I as an operator bring to my enterprise customers? And some of those are looking at how do I provide a risk score onto the transaction that I as a fintech customer, I as an e-commerce customer, I'm about to do a transaction with an end user. I would like to have additional information about that phone number to help me in my assessment of whether this is a useful or helpful or valid transaction. In those kind of cases, then the information that is required is, for instance, is that number valid? Is that number a number that exists in the global number portability database? Is it a number that exists in the global number prefix database? Because if it doesn't, that's not a good start. Do not onboard that customer. So that's a kind of role of validation. Other risk factors and identity factors are things like SIM swap information. As we all know, sadly, for us as an industry, SIM swap is something that the industry lives with, but it means that when you're trying to assess and apply a risk score to that transaction, you want to know whether that phone number has had a SIM swap recently or not. Because if it does, then that ranks really high up on your risk score about engaging with that customer. So these are sort of additional use cases that are there to help facilitate an e-commerce transaction, a fintech transaction, as well as on the other side, helping to facilitate a voice or message delivery.
So we talk about quality. This is quality omnichannel session. So let me ask you a bit more. How do we describe this quality? What is it? Is it the way we do business? Is it the way we serve our end customers?
So, it's a very good question, because there's no, in certain other industries, right, you have nice, clear quality metrics, right? And in our industry, kind of the generic word quality doesn't have kind of strong, clear QoS behind it. But I'll give you a couple examples where quality is something that's measurable and essential. So we know that the world of SMS, as we heard this morning very clearly from Nick Lane on Mobile Squared, that the growth of, or the imminent demise of SMS has been somewhat pushed off yet again. Right? Notice this is the 5th year running. I think that the SMS growth is going to be, so we're seeing strong growth in the world of SMS. One of the key drivers behind that is things like multi-factor authentication, one-time passwords. But in order for one-time passwords to actually to work, then that whole food chain of delivering that message back to the end user has to be so slick. Right? In our modern world of ADHD, if I don't get my message back with my code, right, within 3 microseconds, boom, that's it, I've moved off. Right? The actual stat, I think, officially is every half-second delay, and you're losing another 30–40% of likelihood of that transaction concluding and completing. So in that world, a clear metric of success is when you're doing a lookup on that phone number to validate, is it a real number? Is there a proper routing to be able to deliver that message directly to the relevant mobile network operator? That whole response mechanism needs to be A, fully accurate, and B, it needs to be handled in a response time measured in literally milliseconds. Because otherwise, then by the time the user gets that message, it's far too late. So a clear metric in that particular use case is the information that's being received fully accurate on a global basis? And number 2, is that being delivered in literally single-digit milliseconds? Because otherwise, you've lost that customer. Your enterprise will see it in terms of the response rate will be much lower, right, and you will have unhappy customers. So that's one example of what quality means as part of this number information services.
So where do we go from here now? Because there's lots of things that compose with quality. How we as an industry manage it in a better way, I should say? What is there some things we need to do to bring it up?
Yeah, I do feel that one of the areas that, and this, interesting, this applies the statement of we need to help ensure that us as an industry, both on the messaging side and on the voice side, are I was about to say the words bringing back trust. Possibly it's actually creating trust with the end users that the calls that they are receiving or the messages that they are receiving, they can trust that that caller ID that's being presented is a valid, trusted caller ID. That is essential to ensure us as an industry can grow. The more spam messaging that's happening, the more spoofing that's happening, the more phishing that's happening, all it does is erode confidence by the end user on acting and dealing with that message. So as an enterprise trying to communicate in that optimal way possible, they want to feel comfortable when Barclays Bank is sending out a message that the end user is going to see, this is a message from Barclays Bank and I can trust. I'm now talking to my bank and I'm not talking to some spoof-phished entity. Now, this is a challenge that is not unique to the messaging side. Some of you in the audience may be aware that a major, probably one of the largest investments in the voice side in the last decade almost took place in the USA over the past couple of years, something called Stir Shaken. You may have heard variations of that theme. And the idea behind Stir Shaken was to, exactly this point, was to bring back trust in that caller ID that's being presented to the user. The Stir Shaken was specifically for the voice market in the USA. And it means that when the caller sees a number there, they can trust that that is actually a valid, attested, and verified number. And that, again, that is essential to ensure we as an industry can grow. Now, I'm pleased to say that the MEF, Darry, you've done a fantastic job at helping to deliver I will call it the baby steps, the first steps in the messaging industry, trying to bring back the sense of comfort and trust in that verified ID that's being presented. And that's the Trusted ID program that MEF is launched in a number of UK and expanding to a number of countries. So this whole overall trust anchor, both in the voice world and in the messaging world, is something that we as an industry, on both sides, and both nationally and globally, need to have valid solutions that are efficient for us as an industry. Note that point. Stir Shaking cost the industry, just in the USA alone, somewhere between $250 million and $500 million to implement. Right? That was clearly an interesting experiment. The initial results, I think, were showing only about 8% drop in the amount of spam calling, robocalling. So I'm not sure it's yet been a success, but it's a step in the right direction. So we need to find efficient solutions that work within the industry at a national level and a global level to be able to bring back trust in communications.
Great, and you mentioned trust in general, which is a great topic for us. Can I just do a bit of advertising? And trust in messaging is our code of conduct. I'm so happy that more than 30 of you have signed it up, so thank you very much, including XConnect, so super happy. And so more of that later, but really, don't make me talk about MEF, because MEF is its members. We need to talk about you. We need to understand, because you are part of that changes, acquisition, restructuring of the industry that we are expecting. So about a year ago, I should say, well, not a year ago, but about 6 months ago, time flies, XConnect took an interesting step and saw itself part of a bigger group. You as a CEO, how did you come to that decision? Why?
Okay, slightly personal question.
Yes, very much so.
So yes, earlier this year, XConnect was acquired by a company called Somos. I'm fairly certain that nobody in this audience would have heard of Somos before, so let me give a 1-minute introduction to our new owners. In the USA, the FCC, that's the national regulator, on the telecom side, they organize numbering registries. So the most important one is something called the Number Portability Database. You have other databases, the 1-800 database. That's the list, the database consisting of all the free phones that exist, very much a key part of the kind of the omni-channel experience of the USA, very much driven by the 1-800 numbers. You have other databases which the FCC mandates. Somos run and manage on behalf of the industry 4 out of 5 of those databases. And the logic behind the merger was because if we look at the vision statement, both of Somos and of XConnect, we both literally almost had the same words in our vision statement. We provide trusted information for global connections. And the strengths was Somos had an enormous base of 1,000+ operators, whether voice side or the messaging side in the USA market. XConnect bring a substantial market for the rest of the world. And together, the capabilities of actually delivering global change and global opportunities. And some of the areas that we were mentioning before about the global data sets, global number portability, global number prefix, and bringing back that role of trust into the voice side and the messaging side is something which the strengths of Somos and the strengths of XConnect can actually bring to the market, ultimately for the benefit of you aggregators, for you operators, and for you the enterprise, to be able to deliver that omni-channel experience that we all want.
Great. Then, now, a quick message maybe for your customer as well is anything changes today for you in terms of how you serve them as customers? Oh, probably. Does anything?
So first I'm just noticing that lunch is in 3 minutes, so come what may, I will be finishing in 3 minutes.
Don't worry, you've just been told most of us need to go up and down the stairs. So I should suggest that all of us will just probably eat 3 minutes less. Right. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Yes, no, the only message I can say to our customers is, you know, first of all, in my career, in 30 years in telecoms, I'm delighted to say that our customers that we have today are the happiest customers that I've ever engaged with. We provide this consistent information and at a reliable capability. The advantage of Somos behind us is that we bring a whole load of additional data sets, that's the whole USA data sets behind us, and we're now developing actively, jointly, global solutions for global challenges. And watch this space.
Great, so a bigger data set, more solutions, and we've heard how we're moving from just the mechanics of making things happening with numbering to the data and using data for cost efficiency up to the next level, which is this great thing about building trust, you know, the quality of knowing exactly what happens. So that's more of our discussions. I think more work needs to be done there. We've heard it from you. But before we move to at least us here to lunch, a quick check if we have questions from the, we have one question over the bottom. And if I could ask if we have any questions online from you. No, we don't, you don't have a table? You see, somebody thought of it, I was prepared. No, I'm not. Just a question from the back.
Hi, it's David at Twilio here. If we think about omnichannel, one of the challenges that brands that use our platform are challenging us to tell them is not just where can they reach a user, thinking about the different channels, but where should they be reaching a user, thinking about what will drive the best engagement, whether that's through WhatsApp or through SMS or through voice. Is this something that XConnect is thinking or even developing in terms of providing a service that helps solve that challenge?
Excellent question. And I think it really goes to the heart of what omnichannel means, because it's very nice that you, the enterprise, are being presented with this variety of capabilities and communication channels that you want to be able to reach the end users. But I think, David, I think your question was perfect, which is, at the end of the day, the role of a Twilio or another a provider of CPaaS, etc., wants to be able to help their enterprise deliver that message to the most optimum channel that works for that user. And for me, that all comes back to number information services. So being able to identify that this number, A, is like reachable, whether it's on SMS side, whether it's on the voice side, it's valid capability, it's an RCS capable, it's WhatsApp capable, and then on the additional layer on top of that is what was the last successful communication that existed, right? And therefore gives you, the enterprise, gives you the Twilio, the CPaaS provider of, we would recommend using this channel for this particular user, for this use case at this time. Having that level of information that stands, not necessarily the network information, but what we call the subscriber information, is critical for optimizing that communication channel and identifying what is the correct channel. So yes, it is very much part of kind of that philosophy of maximizing information that can be provided to the industry to ultimately help the enterprise communicate in the most best way possible. So picking up all these nuances of which channel has been working for that user at these times for these use cases is going to be a real essential way to build the success of an omni-channel solution.
Great. Unless we have other questions, and I know that I've been communicative that yes, lunch is upon us, which is a great thing. So, but that leads me to, well, say thank you to Eli Katz, the CEO of XConnect. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and enjoy lunch.
Thank you.